Thank you. Thank you for the warning.
Okay, I would like to welcome everyone to this statewide roundtable on September 1st, 2022. As I was telling David, I hit the record button, so that keeps me from forgetting. But these Zoom-based sessions are often posted on public media platforms such as YouTube. So if you do not wish to have your picture displayed, then you can still participate. Just make sure you turn your video off. Otherwise, your participation in the session services sent to your picture being posted. This is season 3, and this is our 3rd season of the roundtable, and we're excited to be here. And for those of you that are new to these, when the COVID updates started happening, the board came on and said we really need a way to reach out and participate with everyone. And so this all came from your board, and we appreciate them. And this kind of keeps everyone up to date on the COVID updates that were coming out weekly at the time. But now it was such a great resource for everyone to get to share ideas. We kept having the roundtable. Also, for those of you under 30, you may not recognize what's going on outside, but that's called rain. And I reached out to my personal astrophysicist, Neil deGrasse Tyson, just to make sure, and he assures me that's what it is. September 1st is a unique day in history because it is the birthday of Alan Dershowitz, famed criminal defense. The Miami Sound Machine lady, somebody help me with her name. Zach Thomas, who was a linebacker for Texas Tech. Conway Twitty, and of course Edgar Rice Burroughs was the person who wrote the Tarzan novels that became turned into a movie with Johnny Weissmuller. And just as Tarzan, Jane, Boy, and Cheetah kept the jungle safe, that's what they worked together, and that's what the CTAT roundtable discussions are about. Everyone coming in here and working together. And if this is your first one, I think you're going to be amazed at what your other members have to offer and what you can learn through sitting through these Zoom meetings. I pick up information every single session that we have in these roundtables. They're just terrific. And I can't say it enough how much we appreciate you guys being here and willing to help your fellow CTAT members and be a part of the CTAT community. It's really meaningful, and we sincerely appreciate it. Some quick updates on some programming notes. These are just general things that we have going on in CTAT. Of course, we have, we'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute, but we are starting our 3rd cohort of Next Gen administrators in September. We do these monthly roundtables, the professional conferences, and the district program evaluations. We have 2 spots left in the fall, so if you're interested in a district program evaluation, you can just email me at mark@ctat.org. Also, make sure that you subscribe to our CTAT YouTube channel. We post all of these roundtable updates, and one of the new things that we're doing this fall is we're doing IBC reviews that are also being posted to YouTube, and we'll talk a little bit about more of those in a second. Also, don't forget that the Connect CTAT Open Forum is available, and if you're semi-new to CTAT, you might not use this maybe as often as you should, but you can post on here what curriculum are you using for a certain class, just about anything you can think of CTE related, and then members, people that are on the forum, will respond back in kind with answers. And I think one of the best things is to get curriculum resources that I've seen, but people post open positions, they post handbooks, whatever you can think of, it'll be relevant on Connect CTAT. Also, if you haven't, make sure that you go to the TEA website and sign up for their CTE newsletters and get on that listserv, because that's where all the newest information will be coming out from the TEA staff for CTE. Also, don't forget that this year the winter conference is in Galveston, January 30th through February 1st. I know that last year we had one of the better midwinter conferences I've ever been at. I know Greg and I visited a little bit at the conference, and we were talking about how good it was. And the reason why it was so good is because of the outstanding presentations that we had. It's a pretty good problem to have when the rooms are too small to get into some of the presentations, but we shouldn't have that problem in Galveston. That's one of the main reasons that Leslie reached out to a venue that had bigger rooms. And so we should have plenty of room, and we'll be able to watch the oil tankers come in and out in Galveston. So go ahead and mark your calendar, January 30th to February 1st. And we were just on a meeting with the area presidents, and Lindsay said that early bird registration is somewhere around the 1st of November. And so I will post this jot form into the chat once it gets going, but we can't ask for submissions for presentations at the time because it messes up our vendor presentations. But if you have a presentation that you know is going to be a good one, we have a form for members to fill out and submit a presentation. And I can't wait to see the quality that we get for this spring. Ms. Sandoval asked why the CTAT dates were changed. And Gloria Esteban, thank you guys. Why the dates were changed to January. And that really had to do with just the ability to get the venues. And sometimes they fall a little bit short or a little bit longer simply because the calendar dates fall odd. For those of you that's been in CTAT for a while, this was really the common weekend, the last weekend of January and the first weekend of February back a few moons ago, because we watched the Super Bowl there. Also for the summer, I want to talk to you just very briefly about a lot of times, you know, we'll get the business teachers there or the tech ed teachers, and we get them at our conference, but we don't have a lot of quality presentations for them or content. And this year we're taking the approach that we've contracted with some professionals, some teaching professionals from those content areas. In business, we're contracting with Diana Weber, who's there at Seguin with Rick. Rick, thanks a lot for you guys. But and then for tech ed and tech apps, we're contracting with Pam Cook, and they're contracting 10 to 15 sessions directed specifically at those two teacher groups. So as you're planning for the summer, don't forget to include your business and tech ed teachers, because they're going to have presentations and content targeted specifically at them. And we hope that those teachers really haven't had a home for professional development, and we're hoping to provide quality materials for them. And I think they're going to have the best experience they've ever had at our conference. Also, the Next Gen administrators, I will put the link for that again in the chat. And we're sending out emails, and it was in the CTAT chat that just went out this morning. But this is geared for mid-level administrators, coordinators, specialists, directors with less than 5 years experience. So an instructional coach. So if you'd like to be a part of that Next Gen cohort, this is cohort number 3. It's hard to believe, but I put in the email, it's my favorite activity to do in CTAT, and that's the truth, because I really enjoy the fresh perspective that the new administrators have. So if you have 0 to 5 years and you'd like to be part of this cohort, you can shoot me an email at mark@ctat.org, or it's in the CTAT chat, and I'll put the registration link in the chat during the roundtable. Also, one of the things that we're doing is an IBC review, and we're posting these on YouTube. This morning, we actually filmed one with ICEB. And the thought behind this is, if you look at the list, it was hard for me to tell who was what. So we're getting groups like ICEB. Hopefully we have the NOCTI, the NOCTI group to do another one, and we're getting these groups and we're going to have them do YouTube presentations to tell about their certifications. They will tell what certifications are available from their group. How do they access the certifications? How do the students receive the certifications? How do you know the difference between attempted and earned for those certifications? And so we hope that these YouTube videos will be helpful. And of course, ICV is posted right now. We finished that and posted it this morning. Don't forget the finance and CTE workshops that are available through our partnership with TASBO. And this is something that came from the area presidents meeting last winter conference, and the area president suggested that we do this training, and we got with the TASBO folks and they were really on board, and we are really excited to be able to present these. And I think the biggest thing is that when you leave there with your finance officer, then at least you will be speaking the same language. So we encourage you to attend with your finance officer, and that registration is available on the CTAT website as well as the TASBO website. We have 3 different regions that we're presenting in. September 27th will be the Austin area, and that's in Pflugerville. November 1st will be in the Houston area, and November 29th will be in the DFW area. And we really appreciate the area president's input for helping us put these together and identifying that need. Some other updates. I'm going to Ms. Bonds, if you would be willing to give us Sherry Bonds, who is our current CTAT president, if you would be willing to present the TEA leadership update at this time, I'm gonna pin you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Mark. Welcome to everybody. It's a huge turnout today, 133 people. I can't imagine what everybody's interested in talking about today. But before we get to that, in the TEA leadership update, thanks so much to everybody who's serving on the legislative task force this season. So we've got the new session coming up starting in the spring, and so each area has representation of 2 members. So thanks so much for those of you who are serving. Make sure, if you haven't seen the link, and hopefully we can get that dropped in the chat, or maybe Mark, you've got it somewhere, the link to fill out for legislative suggestions. If everybody can share those, so we can get all of your information with that task force and they can bring recommendations to the board. As far as the TEA leadership group, we had that meeting last week. Several of us are fortunate enough to be on there. There are 3 main topics: were non-traditional programs of study, IBCs, and then JET grant feedback. So we'll start with the easiest one. For the JET grant, if any of y'all have been through the JET grant process, if you have any feedback about how to streamline the application or the overall, guidance that you receive on it, if you will shoot that information over to Les Hudson at TEA, and we can drop his email address in the chat. I had it up, but I dropped that next gen link, so I've got to go find his email address. But y'all can go ahead and give Les any feedback on the JET grant. They didn't know exactly when we would find out determination if we received those or not. They hoped in the next month, but that's a different division that does that. With non-traditional programs of study, those of you who have been doing this gig for a little while, you know that with Perkins, we get looked at for our non-traditional enrollment by courses, and TEA does it as well. What they're looking at now is reorganizing that into non-traditional programs of study. So rather than looking at, thanks for the email address, rather than looking at each individual class and saying if it's non-trad or not, they would take an entire program of study. So one of the examples they gave us was a health science sequence, and one course was really high male enrollment, or more of a 50-50. But then everything else, of course, is very concentrated on female enrollment. So what they'll do is they'll average out all of the courses in a program of study. And they gave us the reminder of just how that's determined. If 25% of the occupation, so that SOC code, is one gender, then that's what makes it non-traditional. So we're not really sure what they're going to do with the reports that they're generating, maybe just an awareness, but we shall see. It's really hard with Office of Civil Rights and those things to actually go and track down students that would be non-traditional in a field, male versus female, and tell them to join. So we'll wait and see what they say about that. Then with the IBCs, they talked about just the process, and some of you from either, I know we got it from our PEMS coordinator, but our region service centers may have done some presentations in the last little bit or sent out PowerPoints and that FAQ document that some of us have seen explaining certifications and how things made it on the list or not. I know there's been chatter on the forum about the 9th and 10th grade students and when the determination officially will be made if they can take a course or an exam like Word and account for their accountability. So we have to wait for the final, but you know, we're always waiting to see what they say on that one. The piece that they did share with us that is new is that programs of study will actually be aligned with IBCs. So the concern with, like, let's say something like a drone FAA 107 certification, if you're giving that in your AV or in ag, that if it's not associated with that, it doesn't count. And so you wouldn't get the point for that student completing that program of study and earning an IBC. They're actually going to align IBCs with specific programs of study. So we shall see how all that rolls out. They said that information was going to be coming out in September or October. We definitely, as a committee, there was some consensus that, you know, it'd be nice to get that sooner because we're already in the mix of things with our teachers. So we will see what those look like when they come out. But that's the update from the leadership group. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Ms. Bonds. Well, I had you right there. Okay, thanks to Ms. Bonds at Round Rock for that update. Fantastic. Of course, you know about the proclamation 2024. We had that on the last one. Also, we left the slide up that told you who to contact for which regions at TEA. Also, in reporting, and we talked about this quite a bit last time, you'll be reporting the earned IBCs, you'll be reporting the exams of IBCs that were passed, and you'll be reporting the attempted IBC exams that all the attempts, all the passes, and all the IBCs that are earned. And we talked about this last time. They said they'd be announced on the 18th, and it was. And of course, they're facing all of this in, like Ms. Bonds was saying, as it will be with CCMR. And of course, as we were talking about earlier, they released the accountability list on August 18th to administrator to be addressed. And of course, this is all on the CTE website under industry-based certification tile. When you get to that page, make sure that you look at these documents here. The 2024 IBC list. Then there's a high quality list of frequently asked questions, and then PowerPoint slides related to the updates and which IBCs account for which graduation class and accountability. We don't know exactly how they're going to count in accountability, but we at least know the graduation classes that the different lists will be applied to. They refer to two different lists on the updates. They talk about the V2 list, which was the 1922 list, and they talk about the V3 list, which is the most current, the 22 through 24 list. So when you're reading those updates, you need to make sure that you understand the distinction between the V2 and the V3 list. Also, in our session last time, we submitted questions to TEA, and we can certainly do that again this time. And when we submitted the questions, those were actually answered in the frequently asked questions, and Marcette sent those out. And the main question is why is it passing enough to meet the IBC criteria? And we speculated last time that it had to do with the language, and it did. House Bill 22 in the 85th legislature described accountability for students that earned an IBC, whereas a different bill in the 87th legislature required a reimbursement or allowed for reimbursement for a past IBC. So that's kind of the major difference between the two. And of course, they also provide on that website this Excel document. Also, like to thank Andrea Ellis from the Northeast Texas CTE Consortium, 13 schools involved out there. And she was the major person involved in the design of the new CTAT projection website. And thanks to Tracy Hendricks, she caught an error when I was duplicating the spreadsheet. About half of the formulas were messed up, but it is correct now. And I will put the link to that new one. And of course, in the new updated version of the funding projection spreadsheet, you will be able to change your attendance rate. And then you will also receive enrollment and FTEs for funding tiers. And of course, the landing page will still look the same, and we'll still have the disclaimers up there as far as calculating your projections. The end is near. We appreciate you guys and CTAT, and I'm ready to go back into the gallery view for discussion from the group.
Mark, one question that has come up here in Region 6, thinking about the school safety audits and the soon to be implemented school intruder audit. We're thinking about our career and technical education shops and labs that have bay doors, shop doors. Many of those labs are not air conditioned. Some of the welding labs are not properly ventilated. So we run big shop fans, have bay doors on each side. Just wondering, has there been a discussion anywhere at the state level with any leadership about how we're going to address the need to keep those shop doors locked and exterior doors locked to our career and technical education buildings that are outliers on the campus? We understand if there's a perimeter of fence built around the facility that would help potentially resolve this concern, but just wondering if that's a topic of conversation that anyone is discussing in the state.
Greg, that is a terrific question, and that's probably more of a Robin question as far as has anybody from the state contacted about that. And Robin, I know, is driving, and she'd had a meeting with a special task force on legislation, and I don't think she's back yet. Has anyone else heard of anything, Ms. Bonds? Any of that discussion come up at the?
No, we haven't heard anything discussed about that.
Robin is on.
That question came up yesterday or Tuesday at the CT directors meeting in Region 20. And they checked with TEA, and what we were told was that a perimeter fence was not enough, that the actual facility itself had to have its own separate fence around it that was locked in order for it to meet the intruder requirements. And somebody else that was there can correct me if I misspoke, but I believe that's what Tracy Ryan told us.
Yes, Rick, that is what they said. And they had made a call to Shane Sexton at TEA, if I recall the name correctly. That's right.
That's correct. Shane Sexton is going to be your contact at TEA. Within those conversations, I can tell you that we have routinely been advocating for our career and technical educators when we have been having those discussions with the Texas School Safety Center. The recommendation and this is straight from the intruder detection audit training that I completed this morning. The two things that they're recommending is, one, a perimeter fence, either right up against your facilities that have those rollaway bay doors, or a perimeter fencing around those facilities that have those rollaway doors for ventilation purposes and or direct monitoring of those bay doors.
I'm completely ignorant on this, so I'm asking a question. Is this a new regulation that has come out, or is it guidelines, or where is this coming from?
The original mandate comes from Governor Abbott's call for the intruder detections, intruder detection audits. There is, as far as I have found in digging through code, there is no requirement of that. But as part of that intruder detection, that's what the Texas School Safety Center is training their auditors to do.
Okay. Robin, I see that you're on here now. Have you heard anything about that? Did Marty say anything? I know you met with Marty this morning.
So I just texted him, and so I'm going to ask him if he can get a hold of the, if he can find out for us.
Thank you.
And what did you call it? The governor's directive for intruder detection?
Yes, ma'am. He called for education service centers and the Texas School Safety Center to conduct intruder audits of all schools, all campuses across the entire state over the course of 22-23. And so they're starting with those on September 12th.
Okay. And we'll see what we can find out.
I know
Thank you.
ESC 20 said they hired 25 auditors. We're in the process of hiring 25 auditors to go out to their campuses and do those door audits. And they will literally walk into your building until they are asked who they are and why they're there.
Yeah, it's a 3-phase process. So they will start out by doing an exterior door check, and they will check up to 3 doors, must check at least 1. And then they will go in, if they're able to gain entry, they'll head straight to the front offices. If they're unable to gain entry, then they will again head straight to the front office. They'll check in, they'll get 1 person to escort them. And at that point in time, they're going to check all exterior doors to see if they're locked, to see if they're shut. They'll also be asking if the schools have a school policy for interior classroom doors to be shut and locked. And if that's the case, after they check all the exterior doors, they will then check all interior doors to see if they're shut and locked per your policy. And they'll also check your weekly sweep logs that should have been started the first day of school. I hope that helps.
Yeah, they did say, they clarified for us on Tuesday, the interior doors, if it's a campus policy or recommendation or procedure, that they will not check them. If it is board policy that they be locked, then they will check the interior doors.
Yes, that's correct. And they'll know that during, because they'll have to do a pre-conference essentially with all of the superintendents, alerting them that they are coming within the month to their campuses. And at that time, they'll ask, do you have a policy that all interior doors be shut and locked? And interior doors are just your classroom doors. So if you have open libraries or open cafeterias, those spaces will not be checked. It will just be classroom space doors, but it's only if you have a policy.
Miss Wheeler, do you mind emailing me whatever kind of written materials you have on that?
Yes, I can do that. No problem.
And I'll put that in a follow-up email and send that to everybody on the Zoom.
This may sound like a strange question, but it's pertinent to us. did they say what qualifies as a school that they'd be auditing? Because in our case, we have a CTE center that has enterprises that have open business and some of them independent.
Oh, wow.
It depends on if that is recognized as an individual campus. So every district and then every school within, or every campus within that district. So if it's recognized as an individual campus, then it has made it onto our list. And the list is being sent out by the Texas School Safety Center to all of the ESCs. And they say, here is your September list. Here is your October list. And those are the schools that the service centers are then responsible for having audited. They will give you a copy of the audit, or they will give a designated person on the campus a copy of what they have inspected through the day, or what they have seen throughout the course of that day. And then they have to upload those findings into the Texas School Safety Center system by the conclusion of that day that they did the audit.
You know, I'm sitting here in my head and I'm thinking, you know, what about the ag farms and the field houses and the football fields and the, you know, where the band practice. I mean, and we've known this is, I know for 30 years, it's a monster to close down a high school. There's a lot of outside activity that goes on.
Those individual facilities would probably not be recognized as individual campuses. So they probably would not be inspected. It will just be those campus specific facilities.
Gotcha. Thank you, Ms. Wheeler. That's good info. Greg, does that kind of line up with what you were talking about?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to be going through my intruder training tomorrow, and we have talked about perimeter fences, but for example, some of the ag buildings usually have a back door, a shop door, but they're directly connected to a campus. So that's a direct line into that campus. And I can't tell you the number of times I've gone to an ag building and there's a rock sitting on that back door. And you just open the door and you're walking right through the shop and right into the heart of the building. And that's kind of why I'm asking, you know, this is an area that I'm sure we'll get additional training on. Just want to make certain that when we're talking to our administrators about this process, we're sharing the right and accurate information with them. And I'll know more tomorrow after I go through my training.
Yeah, Greg, if you and Miss Wheeler don't mind, we might get you guys to maybe do 10 or 15 minutes on this at the next roundtable.
Sure.
Happy to help.
Yeah. You.
Sorry, Mark, I was going to add something if I may, because maybe these two individuals can help give guidance as well. And Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know we had this conversation on Tuesday as well at Region 20, and I've had a couple of my high school principals ask me about it, but I know some districts have installed those accordion type doors. I'll use it as example, one of those garage roll-up doors halfway down to where they close and lock on one end. And then if there's a lockdown, you unlock it on one end, pull it shut and pull the door down. It doesn't keep an intruder from shooting through that bottom piece, but it keeps them from entering. I don't know if that's been in any discussion at the TEA level, if those are going to be looked at or acceptable or any of those things. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
The guidance from what I've seen from the Texas School Safety Center says that if you use some form of a barricade, they're not designating if it's like an open, like a mesh type fencing or something like that. They designate that it has to be 6 feet tall and that it has to, if you have some form of a gate or something on there, it has to be locked.
Okay.
If I'm able to gain access by moving the fence aside, I'm not, told somebody earlier today, I'm not going to put Crisco on myself and try to like shimmy around your fencing or anything like that. But you want to make sure that it completely covers whatever it is that you've got up. So if you have a rollaway door, you want to make sure it goes from one end to the other.
Okay.
And if there's a gate of some kind, you want to make sure that it's locked. Right now, their concern is not necessarily shooting through that, but that we're stopping people from being able to just walk into our shops and that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Greg, I'm like you though. It's gonna take a lot of retrofitting on our districts for sure. I'm glad that topic came up. I haven't heard it being addressed that directly. And it sounds like all of the service center personnel are being trained in that. Is that correct?
I can only speak for our service center. We have a safety audit team, and now we'll have an additional team who will be performing the intruder audits. And like I said, we're going through our training tomorrow, so I'll know more tomorrow.
Ms. Chandler, are similar things going on in Region 7? You're muted, I think.
Yeah, Mark, I can answer.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, there, Mr. Parkinson. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're going through our training tomorrow also. We just have specific people here at the service center that are going to do it, that were past administrators. So we'll know more tomorrow. So some of the service centers already gone through the training, but ours is tomorrow.
Fantastic. Does anyone else have anything to add about the safety training component? You know, we have two issues, intruders, and it looks like Mr. McClure's finally been extracted from his office. He's right there in my middle square. Let me think about that. Okay, Miss Bonnie, you and Heather Blunt were talking about CCMR. Heather, do you mind jumping on and going over what you were talking about in the chat about tying to the programs of study to the IBCs?
Yeah, and I was just really referencing her. I think she had two parts of a question about if a student earns a certification at one district and they move somewhere else and graduate from the new district, the new district gets the credit for that, earning that certification, not the district where they earned it. The certification follows the student, I guess I should say.
Right, wherever they graduate from.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, but the district, in theory, could get the reimbursement for the
Oh,
certification.
sure,
Yeah, but just
sure,
not-
yes, yeah.
Okay,
And,
very,
and that's what I thought, but when someone asked me the question today, I had one of those moments of like,
Yeah.
wait. So I thought, well, hey, I'm having this today. Let me ask and make sure.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
I was trying to run through the chat box and I just kind of saw a piece of it. So thank you, guys. Does anyone, what else do we have on our plate?
I have a question on IBCs. We've added a new phrase. So we've added past, I think. So we had earned, ultimately, our students, like I have some students who are juniors and seniors who in their freshman and sophomore year, they earned a certification. We reported the certification to TEA, but technically that would be reported as earned. When they graduate 2 years from now or a year from now, they still count that certification, even though we won't have recorded it as passed, or whichever the two. I've got to get those two figured out in my head.
Well, the service center guys may have had better guidance than I have, but the way I would answer that, let's say that you earned your teacher certification in 2000, and then for whatever reason you let it lapse. Well, I mean, you still had the teacher certification earned in 2000, whether or not you're still certified or not. And so a student at some point between September 1st of their 9th grade year and May 30th of their senior year, they had earned a certification. And so in my mind, earned is earned, whether or not it lapses or is that's the way I think is the best way I can to explain it. Does anyone have better guidance than what that?
Well, and I don't have guidance I mean, we were kind of talking about this in the chat and, and I'm looking at the slideshow or the slides that were put out and, they've changed the list and it says on here that like V2 list, the one that our old list, it could correlate. And yes, they earned it. And just like you're talking about with certification, but they're talking about it in a way where like, if they graduate in 2025, that V2 list isn't going to count for them like a sophomore.
the sophomores that this year, they earned it their freshman year. But the way it's worded, it almost makes it read as if it's not gonna count for accountability. They
Well-
earned it, the kid gets it. but-
Mark, as
That's-
I understand it, I think earned is they met everything that relates to having that certification. So we'll use cosmetology, for example, or CNA might be a better example. More people have CNA. There's both a written component of the CNA certification and there's a skills component. And so in order for the student to earn the certification, they have to pass both the written component and the skills component. But we can enter past if a student passes the written component but fails the skills component in order to get reimbursed for the written component.
Correct. But also in order to earn the cosmetology, they have to make application to TDLR to get their cosmetology license. So they have to pass both exams and apply to TDLR in order to earn their certification. Like an educational aid, the educational aid has to go, 2 years of training, and then they have to apply to TEA to get their. And so in order to earn it, they would also have to make application in those examples.
On the new IBC FAQ that's listed on the IBC TEA page, there's a fairly decent explanation of earned, passed, and attempted within those FAQ questions.
Yes, ma'am. And also, there's a really good on the slide component that's on that list too. There's a very detailed explanation on which students are eligible to use which certifications for accountability. I think that the V2 list stops at the 2025 graduates, and then the V3 list is this year and beyond.
Yes, that's page 7 on that slide deck, Mark, and that's a very good graphic to send out to our districts when they're trying to make decisions on how to purchase their IBCs moving forward for each grade class of students.
Thank you, Ms. Chandler. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna ask
slide 7.
I'm gonna ask one follow-up and then I'm gonna be quiet for a while.
No.
On the earned, are we going to get a one-pager from TEA that says for this certification, in order to be considered earned, the student must do A, B, C, and D? Because ultimately, if that's not the case, what's going to happen is school district A is going to look at it and say, okay, well, they passed this and they passed this, they earned it. And school district B is going to say, no, they passed this and they passed this, but they didn't apply, so they didn't earn it. And so unless there's specification and clarification on exactly what earned is for each certification, everybody's going to apply the rules differently in their district.
I understand your point, Rick, and I could be wrong, but I'm not anticipating that one pager to come out with that on it. But I'll tell you what I will do is, of course, that question was one that we submitted last time to TEA, and we submitted to it and got an answer back. I will resubmit that question to see if there's, what does a student actually have to do to earn? But I think what they're going to say, and I'm not speaking for them, but I think what they're going to say is that TEA doesn't control what the certifying entity says that a student has to do to earn the certification. And so you need to contact the certifying entity to find out what has to be done to earn the certification.
Mark, that's exactly what they told the ESC.
Mark, I've got a question. And I apologize. I came into the meeting a little late, and the TA update was being given. And there at the tail end, I heard that our certifications need to actually be in the program of study this year, that the certification is identified in. Is that correct?
And I'm gonna let Ms. Bonds address this, because I think the answer is gonna be, we don't know yet. But Ms. Bonds, you were at that leadership update. What did they say?
Sure, and if anybody else from the leadership team wants to chime in also, please do. But basically, they let us know that they are going to connect programs of study with an available IBC. So right now, like the example was, if you have FAA 107, the remote drone pilot license, but you use it in ag, in AV, and maybe also in a drone program of study, that they're actually going to define where those are connected to. So that'll be an interesting piece. And again, they told us September or October is when we might have that list for our current students.
And Mr. Rodriguez, I'm sorry, but Ms. Bonds, did they allude to whether or not that was going to be phased in, like it might be concentrators one year and completers the next, or?
I do not remember that we got that much detail on it. Again, if anybody else was in there, please chime in, but that's the gist of what I got.
That they're supposed to vote in February as to whether they're going to require that completer status for the programs of study, but my concern goes back to current programs of study, like renewable energy. There are 0 certifications on their TA document attached to renewable energy, and we have a very well-established program of study, but our board and superintendent is pushing for only programs of study that have certifications attached to them, if that's going to be a requirement. So if we don't have a program of study that may be a general program, a general IBC that we can attach to some of these other courses or programs of study, we may be having to kill some of our programs of study simply because there's nothing attached on that one document that our board and superintendent can look at and say, here's the certification, why aren't your kids earning this?
And Mr. Rodriguez, I know that in late September or October, there's supposed to be a new crosswalk come out that ties the IBCs to programs of study. And so
Okay.
Unless somebody else has a secret copy, I don't think that information is out yet. And so October may be another interesting roundtable.
Well,
And so what we don't know yet is whether or not that quote tie to a program of study is going to be the student having to complete the program of study, or the certification has to be connected to a particular course, like an advanced level course or something like that. We don't know what that looks like yet. Is that right?
That's the way I understand it.
That's what we're gonna find out late September, October, or am I just missing that? Have I missed that?
You can pull up the proposed preliminary 2023 accountability framework on TEA's website and see the wording there for the proposal for that CCMR indicator and the wording, and it's worded: earn an industry-based certification and complete an aligned program of study.
Yeah.
That's all that's out there right now.
Got it. Thank you.
And it says proposed on that, so I'm not sure when that becomes, it goes from proposed to actual.
They are still taking feedback according to that framework document until October 1st.
Right.
Yep.
Mr. Rodriguez, you stated exactly what my fear is too, is that we all have good programs in place that may not be aligned with an IBC right now. And unfortunately, it's going to push a lot of districts to close classes. And I find that a sad situation. I think we all do. Programs that are full, or not programs, but classes that are full, kids are interested. They have an interest in that. But because the districts are wanting to get those ratings up and that accountability measure, it's going to change a lot of things. And I think that's a sad thing for our students.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. We have some very well-established programs. The numbers are there. The kids are interested, but there's not an identified, at least not on the TA document, there's not an identified certification option for them, and not at the high school level. And even with that, we do have some certifications that I have questions about because I find it very, I think that it would be very, very difficult for students to earn some of these certifications that are being listed at the high school level without being out in industry for at least 6 hours out of the school day. And we know that they can't do that. The kids have to complete their academic side as well. So I have questions and concerns about how TA is identifying some of these certifications, and I've read and I understand what they're using as a process, but I don't necessarily agree with what they're coming up with as options for these kids, because I can't believe that there's even a major minority of students who can complete some of these expectations.
And Mr. Rodriguez, I'm with you in spirit 100%, but we're kind of already past what's going to be on the list point. And so now it's which programs of study are they going to tie to? And Heather, thank you for posting that in the chat. Heather Blunt posted the what's proposed for the 2022-2023, or which will apply to this year's students. And so I encourage you to read that, because that's probably what's going to happen, but it's not final yet because comment's still open on October 1st.
Right.
If you'd like to make comment, I just dropped the email that the comment goes to.
Well,
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
Can you tell me what kind of programs you would look at closing? Like which ones don't tie to a certification necessarily?
Well, one of our very popular ones is renewable energy. There are 0 certifications attached to that, and that is a very, very popular program. We have kids that we've tied into the solar panel production and installation programs, here in the city. It's very, very popular. 0 certifications that, at least according to that document, that they can earn at the high school level.
Another one, and this is from the previous district I was at, but another one that there is something you can tie to it, but it's like fashion design, which there are, like Adobe Illustrator. You could do something like that, but then you get down to the cost, the access of being able to supply that to your students. So if you're not able to do that portion of it and really get the students to get into it, immerse in it, pass it and earn it, then it's almost as if the district's going to look at it and be like, okay, that was not cost effective.
Right.
And they're going to want to say, we need to move on to something else. It's going to be
Right.
more
A lot of those
effective,
fashion
maybe
design-
possible for the students to pass or earn better or easier.
I agree. And a lot of those fashion design programs, they're very popular and they're very productive, but the students aren't necessarily learning and building. And they're not necessarily able to pass any of those certifications, but they can pass a lot of the local certifications that we build up for them to take that deal specifically with fashion design. So I like I said before, I understand the process the state went through, and I've commented on this to the state several times. I think that in certain circumstances, they simply said, hey, this falls under this particular cluster or program of study, so we're gonna give you this, and it's an Adobe, it's general, but you may have kids who are never ever gonna open up that software for the design piece, as it were.
One of the ones that we have a challenge with is teaching and training. I mean, we have a lot of students that want to be teachers and they have no desire to be an educational aide. And to them, they may be high performing students that are in AP courses, but they know when they graduate from high school, they want to go to college and they want to teach. So they're in our teaching and training program. They already know what their plan is. They're going to go to college. They're going to get their degree in, English, in education to teach English, whatever that might be. They don't want to go through the hours and the work and the fingerprinting to become an educational aide. So do we just kick those kids to the curb and say, you know what, you're not going to earn a certification, so we can't have you in our program?
In that particular instance, Rick, for that one thing, I would put that in the category of that's one of those stackable certifications. You start as an educational aide, and then eventually you can become a certified teacher. And so I would encourage any student to go ahead and get that educational aide certification if they meet the requirements. But I get your point in how it would apply. They don't want to, and so you can't force them, right?
Right, and the challenge for us
Students
is.
like that can still earn accountability points through
Mhm.
like dual credit hours and
AP
you know, even
classes.
their APIB status.
Right.
And
Oh, they
thank you.
still can. I'm just saying, as we look at if the districts that are saying, if it's not going to be you're not going to have the program if it doesn't lead to a certification, and it leads to a
Yeah, that's a
career.
great point.
Yeah.
And that's for us. That one is a tough one.
Rick, oh, sorry,
ahead.
Mark. Rick,
No,
I would
Sherry, go
say, if kids really know that they are gonna go and become a teacher, tell them to become an Ed Aid 1, get a job somewhere in a school district, and they start contributing to TRS. They can retire a little earlier, so they can start at 18 on their hours to ticking off their time, so.
What a great point. Yeah.
I agree with all of you. My challenge on all of this is, and I have this conversation with my superintendent, is we're doing a lot of things to try to fit kids into CCMR so we get CCMR. But the reality is what is best for that kid. And that may be the retirement idea. I love that. So thank you for sharing that. But for some of them, it's the best thing for that student is to be in the program, be in football, do the things that they're doing, knowing that they want to teach at the end.
Yeah, no, Rick, and I understand what you're saying, and that's, all the districts, every district in the state has to make a decision on how much emphasis they're putting on this. I just encourage you that don't necessarily, a student may be getting a point in some other category, they for sure, most are, as a matter of fact, like Miss Ayers was saying, but make sure you understand that when the taper report comes out and the accountability report comes out on texasschools.gov, it still shows your IBC completion rate as it compares to the region and as it compares to the state. So it doesn't say Rick had 10%, but the kids got it somewhere else. It says Rick had 10%. And you get what I'm saying. Awesome. Mr. Misseldine posted a question in there about this. He said that earned, in addition to passing, may incur some additional cost. And Mr. Misseldine, will that be new money? Currently, the only reimbursement money allowed is through past IBC exams. So unless someone knows something different, I think that's how it reads. Good question, though.
Mark, can I just clarify too on the earned versus the pass? So obviously they pass, some of them they pass first and then months later they earned. That's double work on our part, right? Like I've got to go back in and resubmit that kid. And even though it might not be till 2 years later that they're actually earned, I've got to track this kid for 2 years to get credit, or for the kid to get credit to then enter it as earned. I'm not missing something, right? Like it doesn't automatically change from pass to earn. That's a district's responsibility to do.
Correct. And there's 3 things that you're reporting instead of 1. You have just been reporting past exam. Now you're reporting attempted exam, past exams, and earned IBC. So instead of reporting 1 thing, now you're reporting 3.
Well, and Mark, I have a question about that too. And reporting the attempts, I might be ahead of the game here, but I met with my PEAMS team yesterday to ask how in Skyward I report attempted, and nobody can tell me how to report that, how to enter it. So maybe that's coming. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I haven't seen any SIS, Lisa or Mr. Parkinson or some of the groups that work directly with that may have better input. Lisa, do you know anything about that for Skyward or any?
That'll roll out through the PEAMS department and through TDS. Can't get my initials out.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Yep.
Updates. My understanding is there are going to be 3 columns. Like right now, I mean, you're going to have to put, there's going to be a column that'll say for each one of those, and you'll have to mark, whether they passed or failed it. And then there'll be a column still for the cost, and you'll only enter cost if you're requesting reimbursement. And then a little warning on that is if you've already gotten reimbursement for the student once, there's nothing that keeps you from putting it in the next time they take a test. That's up to you to manage that. And if it were found in an audit, you'd have to reimburse the state of Texas. So it doesn't gray out once you've done one reimbursement. You have to be the one that individually keeps up with that. So there's quite a bit you'll have to have now. You're going to need to know the student's name, the date they took the test, the code for the test itself, the code for the IBC itself, the code for the vendor that you used, and then whether they passed, earned, or failed, and then what the cost was. So you're gonna have to track all of that. I know that, I think Sammy's on, at least I saw him on earlier. I know EduThings was already working on inputting this into their systems. I'm assuming some of the others will. But when TEA rolls something out, each individual student information system has to do their updates. So it doesn't look the same as you go from Ascender to Skyward to any of the others that are different. But it is my understanding that it's already present in some of them. It's there. And so it may be dependent on which SIS system you're using.
And Travis just posted that it's in Skyward now.
Okay.
And Miss Hatton also posted in the chat, if you're not reading it, she posted a listserv for data standards. So especially this year, you might want to sign up for that listserv. Thank you, Miss Hatton, for that.
So what Sammy said in his statement about we do have payment verification system, this is for Skyward, correct? Or for what?
EduThings.
Oh, EduThings, sorry.
Yeah.
Apologize. Because I was with this, we used Ascender at the district I just left. I'm now at a district with Skyward. So it's like apples and oranges. And I'm trying to figure out Skyward. I'm not used to it. So those of you who have used Skyward, when you're putting in your industry-based certifications and you're clicking for reimbursement, when you go back and enter a second one, it's not showing at all a check mark that or something that's already been requested for the previous one, or what? Because in Ascender it would. Ascender, all that stayed there. When you pulled up the student information system in Ascender, if you had checked reimburse, that on the first certification they had, that check mark was still there, and you could see that the next time you went in and put a different certification. So that's not like that in Skyward.
Is there a Skyward user out there that has an answer?
I'm gonna need beverages, people, lots of them.
You know, you can cross the border and get those gummies if you really.
I'm gonna need something. Oh, Lord.
Now it's a great, and I don't know if Skyward has that or not.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Travis. I'm sorry.
We're Skyward, and I just pulled up my reimbursement report, and it does say on there duplicate requests. So it says for the same student, this one I'm looking at has passed 4. He's got 1 that's listed as reimbursed and 3 that are listed as duplicate requests, and I enter the cost in for all of them.
There you go.
Or maybe becoming some of y'all's new best friends, or maybe just the pain in your butt.
So if anybody has a Teams version of that, I will need that access.
Travis, they can subscribe to your bulletin, can't they? No, I'm just teasing, but thanks, Travis. Let's you would figure if one had it, they all do, but they for sure don't all look alike. Robin posted in the chat. I wanted to know if there were any other examples of an IBC that you're worried about not aligning to a program of study.
I don't know if we're worried about an IBC that's not going to align, or more than it's just going to be, who's going to align? Are they going to align an IBC to a program of study, or are there going to be programs of study that are left just out there with nothing connected to it, like, specified to it?
And I know for a fact that TEA is in the process of doing that right now. There's just no way of knowing until we get the new crosswalk, as far as I know. Sherry and the folks on the leadership committee may have some different input. The service center folks, are y'all getting any input on which crosswalks are applying, or which programs of study are crosswalking to the IBCs? Well, I'm sure there's a blue ribbon panel. I'm sure somebody's working on feverishly. Yeah. There's Robin, Mr. Rodriguez said that legal studies currently is one that does not have an IBC aligned. And if you guys, if you know of one, you just want to put it in the chat. We save those chat texts too, and we can glean that information that way. Any other great topics? Lark, thanks a lot for your presentation on the gaming, what is it, the gaming where the kids play the games?
Esports.
Esports. Yeah, thank you, Ms. Baker. Thanks for your presentation on the esports. It was great at the conference. I think there's some mad cow getting in there somewhere. I might have had some bad hamburger, David. All right, go ahead.
I had to step away for a minute. Can y'all start over?
Yeah, we can. I've got mad cow and the IBCs and the alignments all messed up. Now it's going. Everything's just in a process.
Hey, what the heck happened to OSHA 30, Mark?
Well, I'm not sure, but OSHA 30 is not on the list, and the NCCER core still is, and so I guess that's the closest thing to what OSHA 30 was. Yeah, Vonnie?
Well, I was just gonna say in regards to OSHA 30, my husband is a health and safety specialist in the oil field. He actually is, working at a corporate level. And I asked him when all this was going on, when we had OSHA 30 coming up, if it was one that they would look at. And he said, it's nice, but no. He said that every industry does their own certification for all of their employees, and OSHA 30 is not gonna help them.
Yeah. That's pretty good input, but it is one of those things that was better than nothing.
Oh, for sure, definitely.
And I looked through that IBC list and looked at the certifying entities and followed the links just to see what information was there. And on OSHA 30, I believe that I read that even though it won't be on the approved IBC list, there is a movement perhaps to have an OSHA 30 course of some type. So I don't know anything about that. I just wanted to share that information.
Yeah, that's on the slides that the commissioner shared as well.
Didn't they say to look for that in like 2024? So technically when it falls out, it could be like an innovative course that comes out in 2024.
The dates on that slide, I can't remember.
I believe that's the right date. It doesn't give any detail as to whether that it's a standalone course that you'd have to take, in which program of study it would be embedded in, or anything like that. It was just a very generalized comment.
I pulled the slide up. It says anticipated adoption in spring of 2023 for implementation in the 2023-24 school year for that course, OSHA course.
You would have to tie it to a lot of the shop-based courses, you would think.
I thought NCCER had a OSHA 10 that you could do through them, but that wasn't a course on the list either. Even
Well,
back before they did OSHA 30.
And Vonnie, I may be wrong, but at one time, my mad cow brain is telling me that OSHA 10 was embedded in the NCCER core.
Very well possible. I just know we had kids that, of course it didn't count like towards accountability, but we were happy for them that they completed it, and it was, job ready skills kind of a thing, just like food handlers. It's not on the list, but we went ahead and had our students do the Texas food handlers because it's good for the kid.
For sure, yeah. And you have to have it to operate any type of restaurant.
Our industry down here is giving kids a couple bucks more an hour if they had the OSHA 30 when they came to them out of high school. So it was kind of a big hit for us. We were disappointed when that went away, but anyway, it is what it is.
Well, I think, David, a lot of schools go back to just doing the OSHA 10, just like Connie was saying, like food handlers, just because it's kind of the right thing to do.
Well, it's that safety piece, just like, knowing your safety before you go into the culinary kitchen, the industrial kitchen, having that safety piece before you go into the welding shop or the automotive shop. It's a safety issue.
For sure.
Hey, Mark, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Hey, is anybody concerned about what's going on with TDLR, cosmetology and barbering? We got any experts out there maybe on SIFT or something, trying to deregulate all this stuff? Is anybody speak to that?
Can you give us some background, David, on what is just the
Well, they're trying to combine both cosmetology and barbering, but the big concern is in doing away with the licensing altogether. Is what the fear is, and they've got a bunch of meetings coming up, but supposedly from what I hear, kind of everybody's in uproar what they're trying to do, and I think they're just trying to deregulate it completely, doing away with. And so I don't know if anybody heard, if anybody's heard any more about that. If you got big cosmetology programs, are y'all?
A couple of years ago, they came out and they were going, they eliminated the instructor's license out of cosmetology, but you're saying the operator's license.
Correct.
Yeah, I haven't heard that.
They attempted that it was either 4 or 5 years ago. We always kind of referred to it as the big cosmetology uproar, and the cosmetology instructors, they're members of their organizations and owners of some big companies showed up at the TEA school board meeting. And that stopped.
Nice.
I can speak a little bit from art. So we have both cosmetology and barber this year. And our teachers we're sending them to everything and anything that they can to go do some research about what it's going to do to affect. And our teachers don't seem to be too terribly worried that the licensure is going away. And if anything, they're excited about the fact that now they'll be able to operate under one facility, I guess, certification process or accrediting process. So right now our barber has to do credit by hours, and our cosmetology does credit by modules. And so the move is to bring them all under one set of guidelines, so that, and as long as they share a door, if they're at the same site or whatever, I'm accrediting that high school or that facility to be a barber and cosmetology place, where they can operate under one, I guess, annual accreditation. So our teachers seem to be at least very positive about it, but I haven't heard about the licensing going away, so that could potentially be a cause for pause as well.
David, I have heard about the licensure possibly going away, but that's all I really know about it right now, is that it's out there and being discussed.
There was also the component of taking away the graduation requirement as well. And that was another key one that they were saying, that if that does get removed, of where they have to have a high school diploma, that TEA was probably going to then at that point go, never mind, we don't need to have it in our schools anymore.
David, I watch that Texas Register every Friday, and like TEA has stuff on there, licensing, and TDLR has a section on there, and I tried to watch that pretty close, and I haven't seen if it's been on the Texas Register. I've missed it, but I'm gonna watch it extra close now.
Appreciate it, Mark.
Mark, can I throw out a totally different topic?
Yes, ma'am. You got your hand raised. Did you know that?
Yes, I do. I was waiting.
Okay,
and so, and I'm going to credit Heather for having found this, because I didn't find it, she did, but it's been important to my region. TEA has added onto their website that there is now a waiver to meet your CTE minutes for the year in a 4-day school week district. And that waiver is due before the end of this school year. And so if you are not aware of that and your district already is a 4-day school district or is considering becoming one, you probably want to go and find that waiver and take a look at it. It's going to, instead of talking about it being, you know, how many minutes you meet in a 10-day period or in each 45 minutes per every day, if you're a traditional 5-day a week non-block school, it's 8,000 total minutes over the course of the entire year for CTE, but it will require the waiver. So you may want to look at that. It's on the state waivers page and it's down at the bottom. It is not come out anywhere that I have seen announced. It's not been in a letter to the administrator, or it was not in the last superintendent call. So it was a bit of a surprise that it was there.
I just dropped the link to it in the chat.
Yeah. And I apologize, Lisa. I saw that in your newsletter and I was going to put it in the roundtable update. I just forgot. And Ms. Hatton's, Ms. Blunt posted the waiver in the website. Ms. Hatton is saying that Ms. Kilgore is going to send out a blast on Monday about that waiver. Everybody likes a 4-day week. I wonder if the school is going to lose money. Did the contact hours come out, Lisa, to where, did you do the math to see if the contact hours reached 1,080?
If the contact hours reach, what do you mean? The
Well,
contact hours
yeah.
for the year need to meet the 8,000. And so that's the equivalent of a traditional you're saying a 180 school day. Yeah, 180 school day times 45 minutes per class period it's pretty close to that 8,000, yes.
Well, I think it is 8,000 minutes because you have to have 1,080 contact hours for FTE. And I just wonder if those add up to that.
It specifically says 8,000 minutes of instruction in this. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess I did not do the math. I could probably sit here and quickly multiply out the 60 minutes and do it.
Yeah, I really encourage you, if you're looking at a 4-day week, to make sure that you have your I's dotted and your T's crossed for your CTE minutes. Whether it's a waiver or meeting the minute requirement as it is now, whatever it takes.
178 days at 45-minute class periods would be 8,010 minutes.
There you go. Rick, we're going to start calling you slide rule. You did that all in your head, didn't you? Oh, okay. You cheated. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Lisa, for bringing that up. And I apologize for not adding it to the updates.
Can I add one thing I learned TEA was here yesterday. Joe Herrera from the Student Attendance Accounting Handbook. That's how I found out about that. He did mention that they would not, the SAW for this year would not make any reference to 4-day week. It would not be updated to make any reference to 4-day week in the CTE section. But that the next year, the hope was to specifically reference 4-day weeks in the 2023-24 SAW. But for now, there was just going to be the waiver for this year.
Awesome. These roundtables are free, and look at all that good info. Okay, anything else? Thank you, guys. That is terrific. Okay, at this time, this kind of last call, if you have something for the group, I'm going to turn off the recording, and we even went a little over an hour, so I appreciate you guys sticking in, and I appreciate it. Yeah, go.
Well, it just got dropped in the chat, but we got to recognize our own Lindsay Jose on CTAT staff. She is being awarded for professional excellence by the association that we belong to, Texas Society of Association Executives.
Awesome.
Feel free to congratulate her because this is an honor well deserved. She is so awesome. She's been with us, I think, 14 years. Lindsay, is that right?
Look at Lindsay.
I started when I was like 15.
Yeah.
Look there. We pinned her and put her top left. Good job, Lindsay. Good deal. Well, hey, thank you guys again. And I'm going to stop the recording. Never ceases to amaze me how much you guys teach each other in these things. I say it all the time, but these things are invaluable. I appreciate the board coming up with this idea and appreciate you guys participating. You make the CTE engine churn in Texas, and we really appreciate you. So at this time, I'm going to